Hey YouTube. I've been a silent watcher here for years, absorbing the raw emotions, the life-altering advice, and the unbelievable tales that have kept me hooked night after night. But I've never dared to step into the light and share my own story until this very moment. My hands are trembling, my heart is racing, and my thoughts are a chaotic storm as I write this. Because what I'm about to unveil is going to stun most of you, perhaps even provoke a wave of anger or disbelief. I'm 19, and I'm passionately, irrevocably in love with a 71-year-old man named George. Please consider liking and subscribing to the channel to support more stories like this. I can already anticipate the avalanche of comments. That's outrageous. You're too young to know love. This is unacceptable, but I need to release this burden I've carried in silence. This isn't a fleeting crush or a mistake I'll outgrow. It's real, it's transformative, and it's the very pulse of my existence now. I'm hoping a few of you might listen with an open heart, or at least attempt to see the world through my eyes. This is going to be an epic journey. So find a comfortable chair, pour a warm drink, grab a snack, and settle in. Because I have a tale that's longer, richer, and more intricate than anything I've ever shared before. It all began about 2.5 years ago when I was 16. Though nothing physical transpired then, it was the subtle, almost magical beginning of something I couldn't yet decipher. I was volunteering at the town library after school, a sanctuary where I could lose myself among ancient books and quiet corners, escaping the tension of the home fractured by my parents' ongoing arguments. George walked in one crisp autumn afternoon, his presence dignified yet approachable, searching for a rare historical manuscript on local folklore. He was of medium build, with a crown of snowy white hair and warm brown eyes that held the depth of a scholar's life. His voice was a measured tenor, rich with the cadence of lectures given to eager students, and he moved with a deliberate grace that spoke of years spent in contemplation. He was a retired historian, once a professor at a nearby university, now living alone in a house brimming with books after his wife passed away 15 years prior. We struck up a conversation about medieval legends, the art of research, my love for fantasy novels, and it felt natural, like we were two souls meeting across time. At first, it was a companionship I cherished deeply. He'd visit the library weekly, always with that gentle smile, and we'd delve into talks about historical mysteries, the evolution of storytelling, or the dusty tomes he'd uncovered. I began looking forward to his visits with a quiet thrill, reserving rare editions or asking his insights on obscure topics. He'd bring me chamomile tea, brewed with care, and we'd sit in the reading room, lost in dialogue, until the library closed or the librarian's cough reminded me of my duties. I noticed the details, how his hands, lined from years of turning pages, moved with a scholar's precision, how his laugh, soft and thoughtful, warmed the silence, how his gaze sometimes rested on me with a warmth that felt more than platonic. I told myself it was admiration, a student-like bond with a mentor. I was utterly mistaken. The transformation began when I turned 17. About 2 years ago, a shift that began to reshape my understanding of myself. I'd finished my junior year and taken on more hours at the library, feeling adrift as I navigated the complexities of growing up. One evening, after a long day of shelving books, George invited me to his home to see his personal collection of manuscripts, a treasure trove of history. I agreed, a mix of curiosity and nervous energy swirling within me. His house was a scholar's retreat, shelves groaning with leather-bound volumes, the air thick with the scent of old paper and polished wood. We stood close, examining a fragile parchment, and I felt this pull, an invisible thread drawing me to him. He adjusted my grip on the page, his fingers brushing mine with a tenderness that made my heart stutter. Our eyes met, and there was a spark electric, profound, beyond the words on the page. I stepped back, flustered, but that moment replayed in my dreams, igniting a longing that grew with each passing night. Over the next year, those moments blossomed like pages in an unfolding story. We'd meet outside the library, coffee at a secluded cafe, walks through the historic district, or sitting in his study as dusk painted the room in soft shadows. He'd say things like, "You have a mind that seeks truth. Lily, a rare gift." And it felt personal, intimate, a dedication written in visible ink. I began dreaming of him, his touch on my skin, his voice reciting poetry, waking with an ache that consumed me. I turned 18, he was 70, and I knew society would deem it peculiar, but my heart turned the pages of its own narrative. One afternoon at his house, we were cataloging books, our shoulders brushing as we worked. The tension was thick, a chapter I couldn't skip, and I kissed him, soft and hesitant. He froze, then kissed me back briefly before pulling away. "Lily, this is a forbidden chapter," he said, his voice rough. But his eyes, filled with yearning, told me he was reading the same story we avoided it for months. A pause in our narrative filled with restraint and unspoken desire. I was a torment guilt, warred with a yearning I couldn't silence, my mind a library of conflicting emotions. Then one evening, as winter's first snow dusted the ground, he called me over. We sat in his study, surrounded by books, the fire crackling. "I resisted this with every ounce of my will," he said, hands trembling. "I love you, Lily, not just as a student. I shouldn't, but I do." My heart turned a new page. I confessed my love, a story I couldn't rewrite, and we agreed to keep it secret, to explore this plot, knowing the world would censor it. From that night, we became a tale. We'd meet at his house, a haven of knowledge, spending evenings talking, laughing, writing this new us. He'd cook lentil soup or rosemary bread, and we'd sit by the fire, his arm around me. It felt right. The physical side was intense. My first time was nerve-wracking on a snowy night in his library, the fire casting shadows. "Are you sure, Lily?" he asked, his voice low. I nodded, and he kissed me, slow and deep. His hands, learned from years of handling texts, traced my arms, my back, pulling me close. We moved to his bedroom, the candlelight flickering, and his touch was reverent, exploring me with care that made my skin tingle. Kisses on my lips, my neck, sent warmth through me, his breath hitching. It was slow, a burning connection that overwhelmed me. He made me feel cherished, whispering my name with a husky warmth that shivered through me. His experience guided him, lingering on my cheek, pressing my shoulder, making me gasp. I loved his reactions, eyes darkening, soft sighs as I touched him. It was passionate yet tender. One night after, he traced my hair, saying, "You're my manuscript, Lily." I felt whole. It wasn't always gentle, sometimes it flared wildly, like an afternoon when we kissed urgently, hands roaming on his desk, papers scattering, his grip firm. We collapsed, laughing, tangled. Another time, under a stormy sky on his balcony, it was intense, his hands under my shirt, me against him, breathless after. A third moment came in spring, in his garden, the air sweet. A heated embrace against a tree, leaves falling, leaving us dizzy. The world judged us harshly. Friends called it bizarre, some drifted away. My mom found out, screamed, and disowned me. George lost academic contacts over rumors. He'd worry, saying, "You deserve a younger story," but I'd kiss him, saying, "You are my epic." We found chapters of Joy Spring book fairs, winter nights by the fire, a summer trip to a historical site where we kissed among ruins, his touch igniting me, or a fall day researching, ending in a heated moment on the rug. I know it's unconventional, but it's love. George is my archive, my fire. Time's shadow looms, but every touch burns brighter. I'm 19, he's 71, my heart. Thanks, YouTube, for listening. Be kind and carry enough.